This baby is 100% done, Zach. Right down to the last little, like your dad builds them, detail. I am very happy with the end result. I'll show you a few things about this build. So, something you can watch while you're waiting to pick up your plane. The most important thing is it's straight. The planform, in other words, the flat part, the fuselage, and the vertical. These side force generators, all square to the wing. These are the kind of details I like to do. These heat shrink tubing, every one of them's 20 millimeters long. And that's because I have 15 millimeter overlap between the metal rod and the carbon fiber rod. They give the length of the rods. When you do that, it comes out to the right dimension for the total length. Yep, every one of them. Love the details. Nice and neat. So to attach these plastic enlarged control arms, you drill through the stock servo arm, put these short pieces of carbon fiber rod in there. They got holes in them, but like on this one for the ailerons, the holes didn't match up with any of the holes on your stock servo arm, so I drilled new holes. For the rudder and elevator extensions, they only showed these two carbon fiber rods in there, and the holes on the plastic extensions were way big, as you can see here. You fill them with super glue. I wasn't happy with that, so I added another carbon fiber rod on the other side right here. I did the same for the elevator too. I did two major changes, modifications if you will, to the instructions. They had this elevator rod running underneath, which means you got to get it in there. This arm would be hanging down on this servo. But then you got to get it in there and install all these standoffs between all these bracings. So that was one reason to do it. And then they said you'd have to put this control horn in last, because when this rod is captured in all them bracing, you can't engage a Z-bend. So you would put the extension on the servo arm, mount the servo, glue it in, put the control rod in, and then the last thing you do, up underneath here, you would have to snap that onto the Z-bend and then glue it in. Sound like a pain in the butt to me. And the other big reason to do it, now for up elevator, this is pulling. So I just felt it was better that way, and it was much easier to build. So the other modification I did to get toe in, always handles much better. An airplane that has toe in. These cross here, your landing gear cross going through the fuselage here, and I moved them back. See the red dot where they're supposed to go? So to get toe in, I tilted them back. In other words, the landing gear is already made up and it's fixed the axle is fixed. It's all glued together. So if you tilt that back, you get toe in. So this should give it better ground handling. I thought this was very important. I have nice straight runs on your rudder and elevator control rods. So that means all these standoffs, as far as how far you push them in the foam, and then as far as putting them in there, gluing them in, jam them into the slots, and then keep them straight. So I just kept adjusting it as the glue is drying. It dries pretty quick, but you can see here, nice straight shots on both of them rods. Here's the solder and heat shrink job on your wiring to your motor. And here's all the wiring tidied up underneath here. So it'll be a simple matter of taking your receiver, which I already have the Velcro put on it. As you can see, be a simple swap. Put your receiver in there. Another little detail to pay attention to, I have a wider and longer piece of Velcro on every component mounted, and that's plenty of Velcro to hold the component on, but I find that this piece right here won't tear off when the Velcro on the component that's going on there isn't the same size, so it's not pulling from the edges. Did the same thing for the lipos. So a bigger, wider piece of Velcro. Plenty of Velcro to hold these on. These things are really light. And then I got Velcro put on your other batteries too. So they're all ready to go. I numbered them like I do, so you know which one you've run and which one still has charge in them. So I have this piece of Velcro here, and we could move the battery somewhat on that piece of Velcro, but if that CG has to be way different than where I think it should be, we can add Velcro on either side here and move that battery around. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty forgiving on the center of gravity, but right now the center of gravity is right about here. It's a little behind a third of the way back from the leading edge. But I'm thinking this thing with these control surfaces, I'm thinking it's not going to be that big a deal. The other thing I noticed might have to do with the weight of your motor and your 2S LiPo, but Jace's battery is way back in here. It's up over the landing gear. So forward is better, but I'm guessing he's got a center of gravity, might be back in the middle of the wing. So part of the neat building, like I like to do, all this stuff, the thickness of the carbon fiber spars and these pieces on all the control horns that extend for stiffening it, they're all flush on both sides. See that? All your carbon fiber spars nice and flush on both sides. Just something I fuss with. Looks nice. This kind of pissed me off. See these plates? I call them spreaders. It just spreads the load. I think it was something they added to the kit right here. Well, what happened with that, it's going to be fine, but I had the landing gear glued on, and it's the last thing that was in that plastic sheet. I'm like, what are these for? So I wanted them in there, so it's not just the foam and the glue supporting that landing gear. So the landing gear is attached up here, passes through the fuselage. It's pretty awesome design actually, as far as attaching landing gear to foam, make it nice and stiff. But so I cut them in half and slipped them around it, and then everything's all filled in with glue, so it'll be fine. The other change to the kit from the versus the instructions are these wheel collars. They got foam ones that are still in the sheet, but you have in your kit, they're wooden. Let me get this to focus. They're wooden discs, carbon fiber on each side. There you can see them. So I use them, threw away the foam. This prop is held on with this band. I can see it's actually twisted a little bit now too from the torque. But don't grab the plane and shove it on. It's a really tight fit on the shaft. Reach behind the motor here, and especially if you've bumped it, either when you're flying it or just bumped it in your car or whatever, just reach around behind the motor, push on that, make sure that's seated. Okay, let's fire this baby up. So I have your leads for your battery. Put it on that way, where I have this one hanging. Real convenient to reach under here, plug it in. Once it's plugged in, it's immediately initialized. And what I ended up doing was programming exponential. I have 50% on ailerons and 60% on rudder. No, 50% on ailerons, 60 on elevator, 50 on rudder. And all that has to do with is, like this has 3 holes in here. I got on the outermost hole, and then I had to reduce the amount of throw on the rudder because it can only go so far. I have full throw on the aileron or elevator. So what I did for exponential, around the center, I want to have, I don't know, 1/4 inch or more of feel. So ailerons, elevator, rudder. So I just want that softer feel. And you know what? On my extra 330 SC, it's got pretty extreme throws, not quite as much as this, but I think I'm in the neighborhood of 40% exponential or more when I'm in a full 3D mode. And these servos nowadays, they'll have a nice feel. It'll fly nice. That plane, when I'm in a full on 3D mode or normal flying, I can't tell the difference the way I have exponential set up. But then you got your full control throws. So the rudder just clears the elevator, and then that's aileron on the outermost hole. So least amount of throw, unless I went in one with this connector here, which I'm not going to do. And you could always reduce the reduce your travels if you don't like that. So there it is. I mean, I could fly it. I'm pretty confident with the center of gravity, but I would like to get confirmation on that from Jace. Last thing to show you is this foam stand. It's got a purpose. I had to cut these out a little bit, these 2 slots here. It fits on the fuselage right here, but the purpose for it is foam will sag or take a memory or whatever. Foam wheels get flat spots on them. If you keep the weight on here, this is carbon fiber, but eventually the foam, it'll sag. So I would say where I got it set up right now, put it to where these just clear these carbon fiber rods. So right in line with that, the front of that servo, right? The middle servo with the lipo in it, and it balances. Oops, slightly forward. So store it on the stand, and I think everything's going to stay nice and straight, not get any bad memories to it. So there she is. She is a beauty. I ain't gonna lie to you one bit. Let me show you one more thing. Let's look at the carbon fiber rods underneath. It is such a beautiful design piece of construction. It's just fascinating. It's like a truss. Wing bracing all the way down the sides. Tail bracing underneath. And then obviously the bracing on the nose and on the tail on the top. It's a freaking work of art, dude. So I did her proud for you. Yeah, do I like it? Heck yes. Am I thinking I'd like to have one? Not even a question. This thing flies anything like I think it's going to fly. It's going to be a load of fun.